They say the beginning of a relationship is the honeymoon phase, where everything is perfect. For Sarah and me, it started out exactly like that. But there was this shadow hanging over us that I didn't take seriously at first. We started dating in January. I met her on Instagram, just those silly interactions, replying to stories, which eventually turned into hours of chatting on WhatsApp and Snapchat. When we finally met in person, the chemistry was instant. I was happy. Finally, Valentine's Day wasn't going to be a lonely, depressing day for me. But as February 14th got closer, Sarah started to change. She seemed to be looking over her shoulder all the time. One night in January, she finally confessed to me about Jason. Jason was an older guy from her college. They had worked on a group project together, and since then he decided she belonged to him. He followed her around campus, showed up by chance wherever she was, and somehow he found out where she lived. What creeped me out the most was that she wouldn't block him. She said she needed to monitor how crazy he was getting. To her, his silence was more dangerous than his texts. The week of Valentine's Day, Jason lost it. He started sending obsessive texts, saying that day belonged to the two of them. Sarah ignored him until a gift showed up at her door, a box of chocolates. No card, but an immediate text on her phone. "I hope you like the gift." Right then I realized we weren't dealing with some lonely guy, we were dealing with a predator. Sarah sent one final text, telling him she was with me and that he needed to disappear. It was a mistake, Now he had a target, me. 2 days before our dinner, Sarah showed me a screenshot. An unknown number asked, "Is the guy you're seeing Steve?" Seeing my own name on a stalker's screen felt like a punch to the gut. I wasn't just a bystander anymore. I was the obstacle he wanted to get rid of. Valentine's night came a Friday. We went to a nice waterfront restaurant. We wanted to forget the fear. But while we were having wine at an outdoor table, I saw him, a man sitting on a wooden bench near the parking lot with a hat pulled down over his nose. He wasn't eating, he wasn't on his phone. He was just facing our table. Sarah made a nervous joke. "Imagine if that's Jason." We laughed, but the laughter died when the man tilted his head, stared at us for 3 ice-cold seconds, and got up, vanishing into the darkness of the parking lot. My appetite was gone instantly. We decided to head back to my place, a rental house where I lived alone. We were on the couch trying to get the mood back when Sarah froze. "Did you hear that?" A dull thud came from the backyard. Trying to be the protector, I slipped on my slides and went outside. The yard was dead silent. That's when I saw it. The stack of beach chairs, which had been leaning heavily against the wall, was scattered all over the floor. There was no wind, nothing. My eyes scanned the tall hedge that bordered the property, and there he was, a vertical silhouette, motionless, camouflaged among the leaves. My heart started racing so hard I could feel the blood thumping in my ears. I took 2 steps forward and yelled, "Who's there?" The figure didn't run away. He came right at me. The man burst out of the bushes with an aggressiveness that left no doubt he was going to attack me. Before he could pick up speed, I lunged. The ground was uneven. He tripped on some branches and I managed to tackle him. I pinned him down with all my weight, shouting for Sarah to call the police. The guy was struggling, snarling, trying to get loose. When the porch light hit his face and Sarah came out screaming, the shock was total. It was Jason. And he was wearing the same shirt as the guy from the restaurant. He had been following us the whole time. He watched our dinner. He watched us arrive home. The police arrived in minutes. Jason was taken away in handcuffs with that blank stare of someone who didn't regret a thing. He was charged with trespassing and stalking. Sarah got an order of protection. Today, 4 years later, I still check the bushes before going inside. Valentine's Day was never just about flowers and dinners again. For us, it's the anniversary of the night obsession almost crawled into our living room. There are moments in life when your instincts scream so loud you can feel the danger before it even manifests. That's exactly what happened to me and Tyler 4 years ago. It was Valentine's Day. The air was cold, and the excitement for our special dinner was high. When we parked in front of the restaurant, the atmosphere seemed perfect. But the moment we stepped out of the car, something shifted. Near the entrance, a couple was standing. They didn't look like they were waiting for a table or talking to each other. They were just static. The woman had a frozen smile, and the man wore a heavy coat, hands buried in his pockets. They followed us with their eyes from the moment we hit the sidewalk until we walked through the glass door. Inside, the hostess told us the wait would be at least 45 minutes. Since the restaurant was in a busy area, Tyler suggested, "Let's not just stand here being stared at. Let's go play a round of mini golf across the street to kill time." As we left and walked back toward the car, the couple was still there, but this time they moved. The woman stepped forward, slightly blocking our path. She held out a pale hand and said in an excessively friendly voice, "Hi, I'm Mrs. Miller. My husband and I are photographers, and we couldn't help but notice what a beautiful couple you are." Tyler tried to smile, but I felt his arms stiffen. Mrs. Miller continued without blinking. "We have a studio just 5 minutes from here. It's a special night. You should follow us right now for a professional photo shoot. We insist. If you want, you can leave your car here and we'll give you a ride." The invitation sounded like a command in disguise. Her husband said nothing, just watched us with eyes that seemed void of any human emotion. "Thanks, but we have plans," Tyler replied, his voice firm but rushed. We practically dodged them and got into the car. The romantic mood had evaporated. We decided to go to the mini golf place, just to get out of that couple's line of sight. The place was strangely deserted for a holiday. We were on the 5th round, trying to laugh it off when the entrance bell rang. The sound felt like a gunshot in the silence of the room. I looked back and my stomach sank. It was them. The Millers had followed us. They grabbed clubs and started playing in the lane right behind ours, moving as we moved. Their presence was suffocating. When we decided it was time to leave, They cut us off again. Mrs. Miller smiled, but this time it looked like a grimace. Then the husband spoke for the first time. His voice was deep, raspy, as if it hadn't been used in a long time. It should be a competition, the Millers versus the Westons. Time stopped. Tyler's last name is Weston. We had never told them our names. We didn't have business cards, nothing. Panic set in. We practically ran out of there, got in the car, and Tyler didn't think twice. We're going to my house now. To get there, we had to take a secondary road, a long, unlit path surrounded by a dense forest that seemed to close the horizon. Midway through, I noticed two high beams shining in our rearview mirror. They were keeping the same distance no matter our speed. Tyler tried a maneuver, pulling into a 24-hour pharmacy parking lot to see if they would pass by. The suspicious car disappeared. We breathed a sigh of relief and headed back onto the dark road. But it was a mistake. About 5 minutes after we entered the most isolated stretch, a violent crack echoed. Bam, bam, the car lurched violently, and Tyler fought for control as both front tires disintegrated. Someone had placed something on the road. "Get out of the car, Emily, now," he screamed. He didn't go to check the damage. He killed the engine, turned off the lights, and pulled me into the woods. We threw ourselves behind a thick wall of bushes, and Tyler whispered to the police on his phone while I tried to control my breathing so as not to make a sound. Lying on the damp earth, we heard the sound of an engine approaching slowly. The car stopped exactly next to our abandoned vehicle. The silence of the forest was broken by a scream of pure rage. It was Mrs. Miller's voice. "We took too long. They escaped." The sound of a door slamming and the car speeding off was the last thing we heard before the police sirens appeared on the horizon. To this day, we never found out who the Millers were or what they intended to do with us that night. But one thing is certain. If we had accepted that 5-minute invitation, we might never have been seen again. At the end of 2018, I was in a transition phase. I was studying online, and the loneliness was starting to get to me. With Valentine's Day approaching, I decided to download Tinder, hoping to find someone to escape the boredom. That's how I met Alex. From her photos, she was exactly my type. Blonde, delicate glasses, freckles, and blue eyes that seemed to sparkle. She said she hated the bar scene and preferred a quiet night with movies. It seemed too good to be true. We had our first date on February 14th. It was perfect. We grabbed a quick bite, saw a movie, and the conversation flowed effortlessly. When we left the theater, it was snowing heavily. Since Alex's apartment was a 10-minute walk in the freezing cold, I offered, "Why don't you stay at my place tonight? It's safer." She accepted with a sweet smile. We went back to my apartment. Things moved forward, and we fell asleep around 1 a.m. I'm a very light sleeper. Around 3 a.m., I felt the mattress move. I opened my eyes for a second and saw Alex's silhouette walking toward the bathroom. She closed the door, and the light flickered on under the crack. I thought, normal, and went back to sleep. I woke up again at 5:30 a.m. with a chill. Her side of the bed was ice cold. I looked at the bathroom. The light was off. The silence in the apartment was so dense I could hear my own heart. I sat up and noticed something strange. The clothes she had worn the night before were still scattered on the floor. She hadn't left. That's when I heard a creak coming from the darkest corner of my room. It took a moment for my eyes to focus, but there she was. Alex was standing perfectly still, like a statue, with her back to me, staring into the corner of the wall. "Alex, are you okay?" I whispered. No response. Fear began to crawl up my throat. I reached out and turned on the bedside lamp. The dim light revealed she was shaking slightly. I got up, walked slowly over to her, and placed my hand on her shoulder. The instant my fingers touched her, Alex spun around with superhuman speed. She let out a scream that didn't sound like it came from a person. It was a high-pitched, animalistic sound of pure terror. Without saying a word, she started hitting me. Her face, that's what scared me the most. There was no anger, no crying. It was a blank expression, as if there was no one behind those blue eyes. I backed away, tripping onto the bed, as she kept lunging and screaming. Suddenly, as fast as it started, she stopped. She grabbed her clothes off the floor and ran out of the apartment naked, leaving the front door wide open to the cold hallway. I stood paralyzed for minutes before noticing a foul smell coming from the bathroom. When I opened the door, I nearly gagged. It looked like a scene from a horror movie. The shower curtain was ripped. My medicine bottles were scattered on the floor, and on the mirror, she had smeared feces in a manic way. I called the police immediately. They tried to track her down, but her Tinder and Snapchat profiles had been deleted minutes after she left. The final blow came the next day. I showed her picture to my friend who went to the college she claimed to attend. He looked at it for a long time and said, "Jake, this girl never stepped foot in that classroom. I've never seen her in my life." To this day, I don't know who that woman was or what happened to her at 3 a.m., but every night before bed, I check my door lock 3 times, and I've never downloaded a dating app again.